Hello everyone and welcome to our event today. By the end of this presentation, you're going to know exactly how to come in and get vendor credit without a personal guarantee, without a personal credit check that reports on your business credit reports, helping you establish your business credit. For those that don't know me, my name is Ty Crandall. I'm actually the CEO here at Credit Suite. And at Credit Suite, this is what we do. We help businesses get capital, and we help you do this by improving your fundability, fixing the things that help make you more lendable, as well as building business credit for your EIN that's not linked to your social, and getting all kinds of financing for your business in one place. So if we can help you along the way, feel free to give us a ring, 877-600-2487. That's 877-600-2487. Or send us an email, info@creditsuite.com. And if you're interested in building business credit, don't forget to grab our free guide on business credit that has even more information than we're going to be talking about today. You can get that at creditsuite.com/EIN. So let's talk a little bit about business credit and how it's built. So having an EIN doesn't mean that you have established credit. It does not mean that your business is necessarily fundable. Okay, so if you go to a bank to try to get cash credit cards, a Visa card, a MasterCard for your business using your EIN with no credit established, well, then you're always going to get denied guaranteed. Now, the only exceptions if you have good personal credit and if you're using that as a personal guarantee to actually obtain that credit. So I want to start with this because a lot of people may listen to my training on business credit and then go right in their bank and try to get a business credit card without the personal guarantee. I cannot say this enough. Personal guarantees are always required until your business builds enough credit to stand on its own. So that's why you've got to follow the steps that we're going to be talking about today. So a lot of people try to build business credit and do not succeed because a lot of them are trying to go into their banks and go into the big sources like American Express to try building their business credit initially. Okay, but again, the problem is that in a lot of cases, as entrepreneurs just aren't coming in and building that fundability. The fundability, the initial foundation, is so important to being able to start getting the credit that separates your personal and your business credit profiles. So first, you got to build trend lines. You got to put accounts on your business credit reports that show that you're paying your accounts as agreed. And then once you're doing so, then you establish a credit report. Then you establish a credit score. Okay. And once you have this credit profile and this credit score established, then you're able to start getting more access to credit financing without needing the personal guarantee and without needing the personal credit check. So I just can't tell you again how many people get confused here. People learn that business credit exists without a personal guarantee. They immediately try to go out and get it everywhere. Well, you can't do that. Just like with consumer credit, you started with no credit profile, you got small accounts and then built those up, and then you started getting higher limit credit cards and auto financing, and you started getting mortgages. Well, it's exactly the same in the business world. You've got to start with these small vendor credit accounts that we're talking about today. That does three things. It puts trade lines on your credit report. The trade line is reporting of that item on your business credit report. It's also called a payment experience. So it puts these trade lines and payment experiences on your credit report. One. Two, that establishes a credit profile for you. And three, that gives you a credit score. And with those three things, the trade lines that give you the profile, that give you the score, then you have a credit profile that starts giving you the ability to come back in and obtain more credit and more financing as you go along. So why don't you want to give a personal guarantee? Well, the bank's point of view is that they don't like risk, so they try to minimize it by securing business credit. Okay, if as a guarantor or cosigner you can't pay the debt, well then what's going to happen is they're going to come after your private assets. Okay, and that's ultimately what really happens is that, look, a bank is trying to get their money back as many ways as they possibly can. So if you have collateral, or assets you can use as collateral, they're going to use that as collateral. If you have good personal credit and or you're willing to sign as a guarantor, well, they're going to want you to sign as a guarantor, because if you ever default, well, in those examples, they could go after your collateral. They could go after your business assets. They could go after your personal assets. So the more collateral, business, and personal assets they can obtain, then again, it's easier to come in and it's easier to actually be able to succeed. Okay, it's easier for them to succeed with actually getting that money back that they're trying to get if you don't pay the bill. So as in your accounts, your vehicle, your house, your stocks, any of that type of thing they could use, they're going to try to use as collateral. It gives them the best chance of getting their money back if you actually default. Okay, and guess what? The reverse is true on why you don't want guarantees, right? You want to keep all that stuff safe, your stocks, your bonds, your house, your vehicle, and the only way you can keep that safe and out of the lender's reach is to actually come in and avoid those personal guarantees. Okay, and George says, give me a call. George, don't have your number from here, but you have our email, info@creditsuite.com. If you send us an email real quick at info@creditsuite.com with your number, we will definitely reach out to you and give you a call. And Monica, thanks. I appreciate you enjoying the information so far. So starting with vendor credit, well, you won't get a Visa or MasterCard right away. You got to start with vendor credit instead. And as I mentioned, that credit then reports, establishes those trade lines, and then that's what will then give you the profile to start getting the score established and start getting into the Visa, MasterCard, the cash credit, that other kind of credit. Now, I also want to put a disclaimer in here. Sometimes people are confused when I refer to cash credit. We call the cash credit tier of business credit building the place where you get Visa cards, MasterCards, etc. Those kind of credit cards that you can actually use for any purpose, not necessarily credit lines. Credit lines are separate than credit cards. So when we talk about business credit, you're going to try to get to the final stage, which will get you Visa cards, MasterCards you can use anywhere without the guarantee and credit check, and that will build a foundation, a business credit profile and score that will help you start to get more financing. But again, it takes a lot of business credit established to start getting loans and credit lines alone without the personal guarantee and credit check. So again, when we talk about net accounts, vendor accounts, these are typically like net 30 accounts. So for example, if you borrow $1,000 using one of these vendors, well then what's going to happen is on a net 30 account, you're going to have 30 days to pay back that $1,000 in its entirety. Very different than secured in an actual regular revolving credit cards. Okay, so in this world, if you get a net 30 account that we're going to show you today how to do, then you're going to have 30 days to pay that account back whatever you borrow. So that's what a net account is. Now net 30 accounts again have to be paid back in 30 days based on that example. Well, net 60 accounts have to be paid back in 60 days. So to start your business credit profile the right way, then you need to get approved for these vendor accounts that report to the business credit reporting agencies. Now once you've done that, well then you can use the credit, you pay back what you borrowed, you pay your payments on the account, then those accounts are reported to one or multiple of the reporting agencies. The biggest three business credit reporting agencies are Dun & Bradstreet, Experian, or Equifax. We have plenty of training on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/credit suite, that goes through all of these, how the reporting agencies work, how their scores work, all those type of things if you want more information on the actual reporting agencies. So 10 or more of these vendor accounts will help lead to a bigger payoff. So if you have about 5 to 8, then you start getting what we call retail credit, okay? And this is the retail credit tier of business credit building. So you move from these vendor accounts, these net 30, net 55 accounts at some of the sources I'm going to show you today. Then you move on to this retail credit tier, the Home Depot, the Lowe's, the Costco and Sam's Club, and everything to do with the Best Buy and all these accounts that Apple, all the accounts that you could basically buy stuff at, the retailers, the retail store credit. And then once you've done that, well then you start to get higher limits, okay? And then the higher limits also help you get more credit and more financing, even move on to get auto financing, even move on to be able to get those Visa, MasterCard, cash credit cards we talked about. So once reported, then you have those trade lines. So remember, you get the vendor credit, you pay the bills, then that reports, then you have these trade lines. That establishes that credit profile, establishes that credit score. You'll commonly hear me refer to those three things being necessary: getting accounts that report to give you trade lines, that gives you the profile, that gives you the score, and it's that trade lines, the profile, and the score that helps you continue to progress through this credit building system. Okay, now using a newly established business credit profile score, then you can start to get approved for that retail credit I just talked about. Then eventually you can get cash credit without needing to supply your, I shouldn't even say social security number. I'm going to clarify this in a couple slides, but you're going to be able to do this without needing to supply a personal guarantee and credit check. And I'll tell you why I'm giving you this disclaimer, because about June of 2018, everything changed in the business credit world. What happened was a law came from the federal government that made it very hard for people to actually launder money. And one of these things that happened was that they require banks that actually actually issue credit to get your social security number only for the purpose of verifying your identity. So nowadays, if you're getting a credit card that's backed by a bank, it's very common that they're going to ask you for a social security number and require it for verification purposes. But as I will talk about a little bit later, the key to success is not to authorize a credit check or a guarantee, even when you do supply that personal social, which is going to be needed on a lot of credit cards that are issued by banks. So again, this is possible because now your EIN credit profile is established and you can stand on its own. So if you're not giving the authority for a personal credit check or guarantee, then what happens is the credit issuer then pulls your EIN credit, sees that solid profile and score, then they can approve you based on that. So let's talk about this. Look, you're going to talk to a lot of front-end credit issuers that don't even know that what I'm telling you about is possible. And that's because there's two different worlds. When I talk to, U.S. banks credit department, well, then I'm typically talking to a customer service rep when I call in. You're never talking to an underwriter, ever. You don't call U.S. Bank or call Wells Fargo credit card or call Chase or Lowe's or anybody that you have a credit card with. You never call and speak to anybody in the underwriting department. You're speaking with somebody in customer service. So there's always a big disconnect between customer service and their knowledge of this process and underwriters on the back end. So I very commonly hear from people, I tried to go to Nordstrom, I tried to go to Macy's, I tried to go to Sam's Club and apply without giving my social, and they told me I couldn't do it. Well, that's okay. Front-end reps oftentimes don't even know that what I'm telling you is possible. But this is the process of what happens. If you supply that application, and even let's say it's not, the vendors won't even ask for the social because they're not backed by banks. So they might not even ask for the social. Or let's say you're getting a credit card like Staples that's underwritten by Citi or another big bank, they do require the social. And let's say you tell them, I'm not giving you the authority to look at my personal credit, and I'm not giving you the authority to attach a personal guarantee. Well, then the front end rep might come in and say, well, look, that's not even really possible. And you have to say, yes, it is. Send my application without it. What they'll do then is they'll send the application into their system, and their system will by default pull your business credit profile and scores, which, by the way, just so you know, is happening whether you know it or not. When you apply for that Lowe's business credit card, Lowe's is pulling your personal credit if you give them the authority to, and they're pulling your business credit anyways. They're just pulling your personal credit because you let them. Because if you don't know any better, well, then why are they going to tell you not to, right? It's not like you ever go into Lowe's and see a sign of being able to get credit without a guarantee, ever. That never happens, right? So they're not going to tell you that, but the reality is if you submit the application without the credit pull authorization, they're going to make the decision strictly based on your business credit quality. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to establish a basic foundation of business credit, trade lines, profile, and score. Then you say, nope, sorry, no more personal credit check for you. You need to make the decision based on my business credit. Forces them to pull your established business credit profile and score. They see that's established, and that's what gets you in to get the credit without the personal guarantee and without the actual personal credit check. So Charita says, can you, a reputable company for a business virtual address? If you're looking for that to build a credible foundation, you can go to creditsuite.com/virtual and find our best source, which is Alliance, and that's at creditsuite.com/virtual. And Victor says, hey, Ty, I went to get my domain and tried during the checkout. It asked for my personal info, address, phone number. I don't have a business office or number set up yet. Well, if you're getting a domain, that doesn't matter. That's okay. But when you go with anything official, like the IRS records, the Secretary of State, your bank account for the business, that kind of stuff, you want to have your business address, phone number, those type of things in line. But it's really not needed, Victor, when you're coming in and establishing or just getting your domain set up. A great question. So if you add your as social, I shouldn't, again, say the social security number. Then what I will say is if you're going to give the social and don't give a disclaimer to them that you're not authorizing a personal credit check, they're going to pull your personal credit 100% of the time. And if you supply that, they're also going to attach a personal credit guarantee if you don't tell them that it's not authorized. Okay, so that's what I'm saying is, again, don't forget, nowadays you might have to give the social to verify your identity. They need to know that you are the actual one behind the application, but it's only for identity purposes. And nowadays I see business applications that clarify this. They'll even say, when you put your social on there, we're only asking for this to verify your identity. If you don't see we're only asking for for this to verify your identity, then get out of there. Meaning, if you're filling out an online application, get out of the online application and fax the application in or call them instead. But you only ever want to make sure that you supply that social when you're telling them you do not authorize that personal guarantee or credit check to happen. And when that happens, if you don't do that, the vendor's going to use your personal credit report and they're going to put a personal credit inquiry on your credit report. That's a problem for numerous different reasons. First of all, inquiries affect 10% of your consumer FICO score. And second issue is that one inquiry can cost you $25,000 to $30,000 in funding. I mean, we have a funding program called unsecured business financing. Even as a startup, you can get up to $150,000 in credit lines. It's only based on your consumer credit quality. But here's the kicker. One inquiry could cost you $25,000, $30,000 in funding with that one program. So you really need to make sure you minimize inquiries, because inquiries are really going to help you, or lack of inquiries is going to help you get financing when you need it, and it's also going to help your score from not dropping. So again, there's no law requiring that you do supply a social security number or personal guarantee or credit check on applications, but it is a felony if you're ever going to put anything else in place of your social in a social security number field. So I want to tell you that I'm not an attorney. This isn't legal advice, but there's 2 federal laws that say it's a felony when you misrepresent your social. So just leave it blank. If you're ever going to leave a social blank, leave it blank. Okay, never put anything in its place. If you do, you're misrepresenting your social, and it's 2 felonies. Okay, but you can legally leave that field blank, and then again, you're forcing them to ask you for it, or you're forcing them to then make the decision based on business credit quality alone. Okay, so how do we get started here? Okay, and Latasha says, Wise One says, can a business still expect to get cash credit cards without having any revenue coming in? Look, their applications are going to ask what the income or revenue is. So however you're funding the business, they're going to ask that question. Okay, but the approvals are not based on that information. The approvals typically are going to be based on the number of trade lines you have. That alone can lead the way. And Latasha says, I tried to log into NAV to check my business paydex score, didn't show my business, but showed Quill, stated not long enough history to get it. Okay, yes, and that is true, because for Dun & Bradstreet, you have to have 3 accounts reporting to them in order to actually come in and in order for them to establish an actual credit profile for you. And then Omari says, have your inquiries deleted from your consumer credit report. You can do that. But again, I'm giving you the path to avoid them altogether, because in what your solution is to have them deleted, but you don't have to have them deleted if you never authorize them to be on there to begin with. And even if you do get the inquiries deleted, you're still giving a personal guarantee. So it's smarter to avoid the guarantee and the credit check if you can. So getting initial credit is the hardest part of business credit building. And that's because 97% of these trade vendors that issue credit out there don't report the credit. So you've got to find or you got to find vendors that actually will report the credit to establish proper business credit. So keep in mind, a lot of retailers will have time and business requirements. Also keep in mind, they may have income requirements. So again, you got to spend the time to build this vendor credit, especially because that can offset this. And let me give you an example. Home Depot, or let me give you an example, Office Depot and Staples. Office Depot and Staples are written by the exact same, underwritten by the same company. If you go to their applications, they're going to tell you you need 3 years of business and $1 million in revenue. But what we found 100% of the time is that if you don't have that time in business and don't have the revenue, you can still get approved if you follow the system I teach about getting enough trade lines reporting. Meaning when their computers see that you have 10 or 15 trade lines, well then what's going to happen is they're oftentimes going to get approved through even times a manual review or sometimes an automated review, because even when you don't have that time in business and revenue requirements. So just keep that in mind, okay? Because again, I always say the same thing. You show me somebody with enough trade lines reporting, I'll show you an approval even when the actual credit issuer says that you have to have a certain time in business and a certain revenue requirement. It really comes down to the number of trade lines you have reporting. So you got to have about 5 to 8 accounts reporting on your credit report to move to that retail credit tier. Remember, retail credit is Home Depot, it's Lowe's, it's Sam's Club, it's Costco, it's any retailer that offers credit, from Apple to HP to Best Buy and everyone in between. Okay, it's going to take about 30 to 90 days for these accounts to report. Another common question I'm asked, how long does it take to build business credit? Well, I'll tell you this much. If you're doing it on your own, 2-3 years conservatively from what we've seen. If you're working with us as a client, we get it down to about 6 to 9 months to get to the very end of the process. So if you're wanting to work with us, we cut about 2 years off that process because we just make it so simple. We have software that walks you through step by step. Our advisors will call you 5 times the first 5 days. They hold your hand through the process. There's a reason that we exist and we're the biggest in the business credit building space. We've made this super simple using our technology and team to really streamline through the process. Now, let me give you one of the tips that all of our clients knows. A lot of these accounts will report in 30 days, and a lot of the accounts will report every quarter, every 90 days. So for example, if you ever have access to our finance suite, which is the software that we actually offer that helps customers build business credit, every source we have in there says exactly how long it takes them to report and what the process is to get approved. If you don't know that, then you can commonly be applying and getting approved for sources that don't report until every 90 days. The problem there is if you wait 90 days for those accounts to report, remember, you need 5 to 8 accounts reporting to get to retail credit. So if you're waiting 3 months for an account to report, you just prolong the process by 90 days. That's why you have to find accounts that report within 30 days. Now, how do you do this? Well, we have a data team that does that for us. Every account that exists that's even out there, our data team is putting into our finance suite for our clients and saying exactly when it reports so you don't have to spend the time and waste the time to figure that out. If you're not our client, then call them. Call every source before you apply and ask who they report to and how long they report. You might have to call 2 or 3 times, and you might try to push yourself into an underwriter to figure it out, but it's the only answer you have to figure out if it's 30 to 90 days reporting. So it's 60 days on average, but not really. It's really what it comes down to is they either report monthly or they report quarterly. That's something that you're going to have to figure out. So you don't want to apply for that retail credit tier until all these accounts are reporting. That means you need to actually get access to business credit monitoring. And you can get access to business credit monitoring at creditsuite.com/monitoring. And that'll get you access. You can go there to get a link. And I think you could even get you can go there to get what you need to be able to get your accounts reporting or to be able to monitor your accounts as they get reporting. Now remember, as I talked about, a payment experience is an account reporting to a reporting agency. Okay, so if you get approved, for example, for a vendor account, well then it counts as payment. It counts as actually 2 payment experiences if you make sure that that account actually reports to 2 reporting agencies. So here's what I mean by that. Business credit's all about how many accounts you have reporting. We call these payment experiences. If you want to expedite business credit building, if you want to get faster results, then the key is that you want to come in and you want to get accounts that have report to more reporting agencies. That gives you more payment experiences. Okay, and by getting payment experiences, then that's what expedites the process. So here, let me give you an example. Here is our actual finance suite. This is what our clients use to build business credit. Okay, so let me go to Lowe's here. So it not only outlines everything that's involved with getting an account approved, but you can also see here that Lowe's reports to D&B and Experian. So what happens is by getting this one account, you get 2 payment experiences. So that's a really big deal to help you build business credit faster. Now you can also see here that we list every single source and who they report to, because Chevron will give you 3 payment experiences, whereas if you come in and only try to get Amazon, you're only getting 2. So how you expedite business credit building is to know this, and this is why, again, it's just faster for our clients to build credit because all this information is readily available, so you know how many payment experiences you're actually gaining. So with this, you want to try to get vendor credit. You want to try to get sources that report to as many reporting agencies as possible to build as many payment experiences as you could possibly get. One account that reports to D&B is not worth as much value to you as an account that reports to D&B and Experian. Okay, so hopefully that makes a lot of sense. And my questions just went away because my questions are right here. So let me open that up to address your questions. Okay, so hopefully that makes a lot of sense. Okay, and Latasha says Crown Office Supplies is a net 30 vendor count that reports to all 3 bureaus. Cool. I will have them look into Crown Office Supplies on our data team. They probably already know about that, but I appreciate you suggesting that to everybody so everybody sees that. And then Amari says I have 4 accounts reporting in a 79 paydex within 4 months. I tried Wawa and was asked for a PG. Yeah, that's because you don't have enough accounts reporting. As we've talked about so far, you need to have 5 to 8 reporting, and we will get into some specific vendors that will help you here in a minute. You got to have about 10 to 12, even now 14 reporting to get to the Visa, MasterCard, cash credit. Usually to get this, they're going to want to have one of those limits on that account needs to be 10,000 or higher, which brings up a good point. Don't build business credit just to build business credit. You need to get credit you're really going to use to grow your business, because using that credit is what gets you higher limits, and you've got to have a higher limit of 10,000 or higher to get to that 10, 12 plus accounts, or you have to have the $10,000 limit account plus 10 to 12 accounts reporting in order to get to the Visa, MasterCard, that kind of cash credit. Now, it's pretty easy to typically do, because in the business world, they're pretty generous with credit limits. They're giving you very high limits compared to what you find in the consumer world, but only especially if you're actually using that credit. So not all retailers are going to approve you just because you have that credit profile and score established. Some will. Home Depot, Radio Shack, some will have a time and business requirement they stick to. But again, as I mentioned, if you have enough trade lines reporting, that typically will help you get past that with most sources. Okay, even with their time and business requirements are exactly the same as what I just mentioned. A lot of them you can get past if you have enough trade lines reporting. So 3 basic companies, we'll talk about some more, but 3 basic you could use as vendors are Quill, Uline, and Grainger. These are always my go-to 3 accounts to get started. If you don't have these 3, these are the 3 best ones to actually start with. Now, Uline sells shipping, packaging, industrial supplies. They report to D&B. You've got to have a DUNS number established with them to be able to get approved. If you've ever seen my longer videos and longer training where I talk about all the steps of building business credit, not just the vendor tier, I will tell you one of the initial steps you need to take is get that DUNS number set up before you even start to apply for vendor credit. So don't forget, this training is all about getting vendor credit, but you need to go back to my other training on youtube.com/credit suite or on our podcast where I teach you the first step, the fundability step, because you got to build that credible, fundable foundation first before you even start applying for vendor credit, or you're going to have a lot of denials. And part of the building that fundable foundation is to come in and get that DUNS number set up. Now, they're going to ask for 2 trade references and a bank reference. I often always say in the fundability step, you need to set up your bank account, not because you're going to need your bank account to get business credit, but because they're going to want this bank reference. A lot of sources will, including Uline, and they're going to usually want you to spend about $50 or more before they're actually going to give you that credit and report the credit. Now, if you don't have the fundability set up right, or you're a brand new business, they may make you place 2 orders first before they approve you without the personal guarantee and credit check. And to apply with them, you're basically going to add items to your shopping cart, go to checkout, select open an account, select to be invoiced, and you can do all that at uline.com. Now, Quill sells over 1 million products, including office supplies, packaging, cleaning supplies. They report to D&B every quarter, so remember we talked about that as well. You're going to need a Paydex score initially to get approved. If you don't have one, they will look at Experian, and they may make you place a couple prepaid orders before they'll actually approve you. But again, if you've followed my steps and built your fundability, you could typically get past that. And again, the very first account you get, especially if you're newer in business, they may make you go 3 months to report. There's ways around this, but again, something that you want to keep in mind, and those ways around it have to do with having more trade lines, having a Paydex score established, also just coming in and making sure you have more of the fundability requirements done. To apply, you need to put items in your shopping cart, go to checkout, open an account, select to be invoiced. It's the same process as you're going to find with Uline, and you can go to quill.com to actually get approved. Now, Grainger, they sell hardware, power tools, pumps, and more. They also do fleet maintenance. To qualify, you need the following: a business license if necessary, okay, an EIN number, a DUNS number from Dun & Bradstreet. Grainger's simple. Like, if you have a business license, Grainger's automatically going to approve you. If you don't have a business license, it's a little bit more work. It's not as difficult to get approved, but again, if you have a business license, they're automatically going to approve you. For less than $1,000 credit, they'll approve nearly anybody with a license. For over $1,000, they're going to really want to see trade and bank references. So again, very common to get approved with them, but if you have a license, it gives you higher approvals that you're going to be able to get fairly quickly, and you're going to want to fax the application or apply with them by the phone. You can do that at Grainger.com. So That being said, another great one that I like is Strategic Network Solutions. Strategic Network Solutions sells all kinds of services relating to computers and networking that you can use as well. Wells Fargo has a great secured credit card that you can use for business credit building as well. So there's about 5 different accounts that I've given you, many of which can work. Gimplers is back and forth. Gimplers is not one you can rely on. You need to call and ask them if they report. They used to report, then they didn't, then they did, and now we don't even say that they do because they get mad at us. They don't even like us mentioning their name when it comes to reporting a business credit, because I don't think they could figure out what they're doing or not. But in the past, they've been a fairly good one as well. So there's more than a handful of accounts that can actually help you. And again, not to self-promote, okay, but if you want, feel free to reach out to our team at creditsuite.com. You can get all of our contact info. We'll do a free consultation with you. We'll talk about where you are in the process and help you kind of progress on to the next step. But keep in mind, we have more vendors accessible in our system than you're going to find anywhere else because we put them in the business of reporting. And what I mean by that is that our clients can use vendors for SEO service, for marketing services, for website design, because we help the vendors that offer those services actually get the ability to report. So that way you can get the stuff you really need to grow your business while building your business credit at exactly the same time. So let me get in, answer a few of the questions that are here. Is there a minimum you have to spend with each vendor to get them to report? No, but as I talked about, some Quill and Uline will have that requirement of about $50 or more. Is Credit Suite monitoring the same as NAV? Yes, ours is. We actually integrate with NAV. So we're partnered with NAV, and our credit monitoring is, we have an integration with NAV right into our system. And that's a good, okay, I did that with Uline, got a call stating I have to make at least 5 to 7 orders. Usually it's 3. So Latasha, that's exactly what is common, and I just touched upon this, that you've got to do at least 2 prepaid orders to get approved. They may be telling you 5 to 7, but again, you're never talking to an underwriter, you're talking to a customer service rep. I can tell you historically, and we've built business credit for going on over 20,000 people now, I can tell you that we've seen on your 3rd order, you're going to get approved with Uline and Quill. We've never seen somebody have to place 5 or 7. Also keep in mind, Latasha, you can get past that if you really built your fundability the right way. So follow our training on that as well. Felicia says still at the end, we still will be a PG if the business fails, right? No, that's not correct. Not if you followed the steps that I've outlined here. I've outlined the steps today to help you get vendor credit without a personal guarantee and credit check. Once you've built that initial foundation, as I've talked about, the next step is to move on to retail credit tier. And as I mentioned there, if you don't give them the authority for a personal credit check or guarantee, they will then by default go and they will look at your business credit quality to determine your approval. If you've done what I've said, you've got a handful or more of accounts reporting, then you can get past the personal guarantee on that revolving credit. You can get auto financing, you can get credit at almost every major retailer, you can get cash credit, by that I mean Visa cards and MasterCards, you can get all of that without a personal guarantee and without a personal credit check if you're following the steps that I'm saying, and if you're following the training on how to actually do that. Do you suggest getting a secure business credit card from your bank if they do not report to DMV? No, I don't. If you're going to get a secure credit card, go and get one from Wells Fargo that does report. Wells Fargo has the best secure credit card out there that does report to the reporting agencies. And Pink Shoes, which by the way, love the name Pink Shoes. How can you start up a business loan with your DUNS or EIN? Do you have to open 3 credit accounts first? So again, this is a very good question, and I'm going to reference this. So let me repeat the question. How can you get a startup business loan with your DUNS or EIN? Do you have to open 3 credit accounts first? Here's what it comes down to. You really have to think about what you're asking. If you're asking somebody for a business loan, why would they give you a loan? So in this case, do you have good consumer credit? Does your business have cash flow? Do you have collateral? Those are the 3 main reasons somebody gets a loan. I call it the 3C approval formula: cash flow, credit, and collateral. If you have one of those 3 C's, you could typically get approved. If you don't have that, then you're typically not lendable. Nobody's going to give you a loan. Now, what you're saying is, well, I have a DUNS number and an EIN. Well, that doesn't mean anything. You don't have a credit profile established for your business. Just because you have a business, as I started today's presentation with, just because you have a business, just because you have an EIN, just because you have a DUNS number, doesn't mean you have an established credit profile where somebody's going to want to lend you money. So if you really want to get money based on business credit quality, you have to follow the steps I've talked about here and really build out your business credit, because it takes a very well established credit profile and score to start being able to access even Visa and MasterCards. And when it comes to loans loans and credit lines, they're going to look at your business credit as well as other factors. So the really question to getting financing like loans includes, do you really have cash flow? Do you have credit? Do you have collateral? If not, that's when you want to build your business credit so you have more of a lendable strength. So in recap, part of a business building part of business building fundability is to prove you're responsible with credit. And the easiest way to do that is to start with vendor credit, apply, get credit for that EIN. Okay, don't give them the authority for the personal credit check and guarantee. Now, this presentation has a lot of places keep your SSN off the application. There's a reason for that, because these credit issuers that I've went over, these vendors are not actually backed by banks. So these vendors don't require your social security number. But I keep throwing in this disclaimer because when you get to store credit, Visa cards, MasterCards that are backed by banks, they will ask for the social, but only for verification purposes. That's when you don't want to provide the guarantee or credit check. You want to tell them, I do not authorize that. But for vendors, you could keep your SSN off the application. They're never even going to ask for it, okay, in most cases. Work with starter vendors who report to Equifax, Experian, and DMB or more, and always manage that credit responsibly because your credit scores are based on how you pay, and you can often get vendor credit with no credit check and with no personal guarantee. Again, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to give us a ring at 877-600-2487. Email us at info@creditsuite.com. Top right of our website, creditsuite.com, you're actually able to come in and access our Twitter and Instagram where we have tips daily. We have hundreds of videos on our YouTube channel that map this out more in depth, each part of the process. You can also listen on the fly on our podcast, so you can listen on the go. I think we've now surpassed 200 episodes on our podcast, maybe 300. I don't know. It's a lot, but there's a lot of great quality information there as well. And I want to get in and answer some of the other questions that I have to make sure that you have the answers that you're looking for. But don't forget, just because we wrap up here doesn't mean I'm gone, okay? The nice thing about being live on YouTube with us right now is you can ask questions, I can engage. At 2 o'clock Eastern, I go live on Facebook. Then you can see me face to face, and you can ask questions and engage. So there's a couple different ways. We're even getting ready to roll out a weekly training where I'm going to have a Zoom call that everybody's going to be invited to, and that will be another way that you can get some of these questions asked to try to help you succeed. Let me get to some of these questions. Bill says, got 10 trades reporting to DMB, but only 3 on Experian, 8 on Equifax. How do I add to my Experian report? Well, the simple answer is you've got to get more accounts that report to Experian. Okay, that's what it really comes down to. I know that's not the answer you want, but again, keep in mind the world I live in. Here's the world I live in. The world I live in, our data team figures all that out. The world I live in, it's very easy to add accounts that report to Experian because you just come in our system and you basically figure out whatever credit account you want. You then open it up to learn the underwriting requirements for that account. You see where it reports to, and you can go and get that credit. If you don't have access to this much simplicity, then what you really want to do to fix it is you really just want to make sure you ask the credit issuers who they report to. It's one of the easiest ways to get answers to that question. Who do you report to, and find ones that do report to Experian. Although I will say what you're dealing with is very unique. Most of the time, and make sure you don't have those two reversed, most of the time Equifax is the hard one to build. Experian's fairly easy. Most don't report to Equifax but do report to Experian. Equifax is typically the one that's harder to get counts that report to. And Pink Shoe says, how can you get a startup business loan with your DUNS or EIN? Do you have to? And I already answered that question as well. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you have any other questions, give us a ring, 877-600-2487. We will even work with you and do a fundability check. So on the call, we can even spend time with you, do a fundability check, look at some of your online listings, SOS, your Secretary of State listing, to make sure that those things meet the basic fundability requirements. We'll do a free search to see if you're set up with the reporting agencies now. We even tell you all the funding you may be able to get now. We'll do a fundability assessment that will even dig into the 3 C's to talk about all the ways you can get financing now as well. And IC says, how much does your program start? It depends. If you want to offer business credit financing as a service, get it as a or if you want to use our system to just get business credit financing or offer it as a product and service. But you can go to creditsuite.com, check out our pricing page, and get answers there. And we have options that are off our website as well. We'll work with you on a custom plan based on budget. So all you ever need to do there is just give us a ring at 877-600-2487. I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Now you know the keys to getting the vendor credit. Any more information, follow us online, follow our links for the free training. Give us a ring for your free consultation as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.